Hello, FemCity members. Happy Monday. I am Violette de Ayala. I'm the founder of FemCity, and you're joining us today for our Monday Motivational Series. I am so excited to have these three beautiful women from our FemCity Global Program join me today. If you are joining us live, we encourage you to ask questions. You can join the conversation. We're here for you. So collectively and collaboratively, we want you to get the best out of this series today. We want you to move past your business trauma as well. And if you're watching the replay, because I know many of you like to watch the replay on the weekends, don't ever feel like you missed the conversation. You can always reach out to any of us right here. If you need more clarity, if you need more guidance, or if you just want to add some aha moments and some love. We love love. So if you want to share some love with us, we will take that as well. So today we're going to talk about how to get over business trauma. And the reason why I think this is a really important topic is because I went through this a couple of times. So you just don't go through it one time, I think. You go through it in different ways and in different times of your life. For me, business trauma is when something has gone really wrong and you have that narrative that you're holding on to and it holds you back. It's our way of protecting ourselves, but also can hinder our growth in many ways. So I think the first time I had business trauma was when we had a whole bunch of investment properties, and it was after 9/11, and things got really bad. And then we ended up buying another property, and then that went really bad as well. And it took us a really long time to buy a house again. Like I couldn't even watch HGTV. I couldn't watch anything having to do with house renovation because I was completely traumatized with anything having to do with houses and investments. So it took us a really long time to get through that trauma and then buy our own house, which of course we're not flipping this house, we're going to live in it. But that was a really big business trauma that I had. So we have some love already that came through. Hey, Fems, happy Monday. Time to let that trauma go. And we have some more love this topic and not something that's talked about enough. And then we have God will give you some lessons, so much growth. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Michelle, share a little bit about who you are and also what does business trauma mean to you?
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Michelle Butt. I'm a facial intelligence expert and holistic life coach. And for me, my first experience of business trauma, and it happened a couple of times until I learned, was it was around kind of being an entrepreneur. So when you step into being an entrepreneur, you're alone in the world. And so some of us think that you need somebody else, or you need to partner with someone, or you need to collaborate. And there's always people coming to say, hey, let's do this together. And so my biggest problem in the beginning was not trusting that I could do this on my own and that I needed to hitch my wagon to somebody else. And so I did that, and they're like, oh yeah, let's amalgamate your work with ours. And all of a sudden my work was slowly becoming, body snatched into theirs. And I was losing myself, my vision for my own business, and I had to cut and run. And after that, it was really hard for me to recover because I had to figure out that I could trust myself to do this mission on my own. But then also, which I'm still it's like trauma comes back to every time someone says, hey, let's collaborate on that. I go back into the panic of, am I going to lose my identity here? And so for me, it really had to do with collaborating and trusting other people to not try and swallow up my business and my vision.
I wish we had a love button on that. I would have been like pressing it like obnoxiously. I would have been like that. I had that trauma also. And I know so many women that had that too. I also know some of our members that, myself included, hiring someone. I once paid someone a couple $1,000s, I think like 3 or 4, to give me PR advice on how, and literally everything they gave me, I already knew. I used to be a publicist. I was like, I can't believe I just spent that much money on having someone I didn't trust that I would know. So I had trauma with that also. Even now, I'm like, I'm going to spend that much money? Like, is that really going to be a good investment? Because I already got burned on that in the past. that is a huge one that many women go through. Let's go to Regena. Regena, share also about business trauma, like what it means to you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Regena Rosa Celeste. I'm so happy to be here. I'm an internal peace vision guide and coach, and I help people to live with less stress and more ease and flow using 50 different tools and techniques. I've been able to help people feel more peace. And I love this topic because it is so true. Trauma comes in cycles. And I think for all of us entrepreneurs and anyone who's in business, whether for themselves or even as an entrepreneur, our goal is to shine. We want to do our best. And trauma comes in so many different forms. And I know for myself, when I was in real estate, which I'm still licensed, but just, kind of shifted. When I was heavily in real estate, I actually, at one point in my life, I actually filed bankruptcy, which was a huge thing for me because Violet, like you were saying, a lot of people were buying properties and I had all this shame around, well, I should know better. I'm in real estate and I should not have these kind of issues. And little did I know, as the market had shifted, like 99% of realtors were in the same boat. And so it was really humbling. And it actually got me on the trajectory of the work that I get to do now, which is regardless of whether it's financial trauma or life trauma, life's going to happen. And how can we still be in that state of calm and be centered even when those things happen? So I think it's a gift, and it certainly has been a challenge for me even to this day when I see, like Michelle, you were saying, these little reminders of like, ooh, that's a familiar feeling. And I have like this gut, wrenching feeling in my tummy. And then I say, oh, okay, I'm in a different space now. And I can just lean into and just say, you know what, I'm a different person now. I have different skills than I did back then. And I ask people for help if I need to. And I say, hey, can you help me look at this before I make this investment? Is it a good idea? And I think that's always a thing. Like Violet, you said that recently. You ask 5 people before you post certain things because you want to make sure that you're not missing any I's or any T's crossed. So I think it's lessons for us to learn and to be gentle with ourselves as well.
Love that. And we have some love that came through. I didn't realize this was a thing. I know there are times when businesses don't work out, but it's nice to know that we all make mistakes when starting out, but we learn. And I'm highlighting that because since we don't talk about it a lot, when it happens to us, and it doesn't have to necessarily be like our whole entire business crashes or, it can be just like the little things that happen where it causes a business trauma where we're really scared to step into that space again. So it could come small, it could come really big. But the more we talk about it, the more we all feel normal and the more we can all move forward as well. So it's really important for us to have that conversation. Shannon, welcome as well.
Hello.
What are your thoughts? How would you define business trauma?
Well, if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Shannon Hinderberger. I live in Bend, Oregon. I lead our local FemCity, and I am a digital marketing strategist and coach who helps you stress less about your social media and digital marketing. And I basically give you tools to simplify it and get time back and start to really enjoy marketing. And mine goes back to not trusting, very similar to Michelle, but not trusting women to collaborate with. When I was working in the workforce, employed, and had leadership above me, I kept running into working with leadership that squashed me down, not lift me up, didn't believe or listen to things that I said, and didn't follow the path that I felt was the best for the business. And it ended up, one situation ended up, I got let go from my job on my 12th week of maternity leave. And it was very traumatizing. And I had a new baby, and I just did not feel confident in anything at that point. So then fast forward several years, very similar situation. Leadership didn't believe, and I was about ready to give my notice, and I was let go. And it was just the sign that I needed to move forward and start my own thing. I just had said, this is where the universe wants me to go. But I was still roadblocked with women especially not being the best collaborators. And I think the best way I got through it was exposure therapy and just believing that I want to collaborate and help other women become leaders in their business with their marketing, there are people out there like me, and just joining things like FemCity, going out to networking events, going to coffee with folks. I just think putting myself in front of that problem and that business trauma and just working through it has helped. And today I have no problem collaborating with other folks. And I'm not worried about stealing ideas. There's more than enough ideas out there. But I like to say exposure therapy helped me through that.
Love that. So we have some more love that came through. Let me just highlight those. Totally agree. Sometimes it's important to be authentic and talk about it. The more we talk about these things, I'm telling you, the more it helps everyone. Because whether you've been through it already, then you go, oh my gosh, I wasn't alone. Whether you're going through it now, you're not the only one. Or maybe in the future, it happens to you and you can remember this and go, oh, you know what? I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm totally fine. Those girls told me I'm going to be fine. And so it's really important. So here's another comment. It's so hard to hold on to our voice and stand in our voice when so many others pound into our heads that we are wrong or in the wrong place. It takes so much confidence and being sure of ourselves, our genuine selves, before other voices are no longer louder than our own, which I think it's a really big blessing for so many, because it helps to transition into the space of you being a small business owner, making that leap and doing it on your own. So you guys already shared a little bit of advice as to what we can do when we are facing business trauma, but I wanted to dive in a little bit more. Michelle, what is your number one advice, best advice that you can give to those FemCity members that are going through business trauma right now?
I think the thing that helped me, that I think would help other women, is to understand that you and your business are two different things. So you're running your business, but you aren't the business. We tend to feel like it's an extension of us, and it's just a part of who we are. So when you can kind of separate it, then you can stand back and look at it perhaps more objectively and less emotionally, and then try to understand where the disconnect is between you and that business and the situation that seems to be traumatic. Because, even when you were in life and something traumatic happens, we kind of have to separate ourselves from the event in the past and the memory of it that keeps bringing us back to that emotional place. And that's how we can begin to see the triggers and then change the pattern. And for me, it always comes back to looking in the mirror and anchoring in who you are, what your strengths are, what your challenges may be, because it may be the challenges that allowed you to get into that trauma. But when you recognize them and how unique they are to you, then you can find the unique solution that you need so that you don't find yourself repeating the traumatic pattern.
I love it. I'm such a advocate of finding your triggers. Like, I find that for me has always been a place where I can save myself. I never knew that. I don't even know what book I read. It's definitely a book I read that told me about that. But finding that trigger, I was listening to you and I was thinking about the real estate kind of like business trauma, because we made so much money in that space. Like, we made a tremendous amount of money, and then the opposite happened. We lost a tremendous amount of money. And I actually was not actively looking to heal myself, which I realized listening to you speak. I wasn't actively looking to heal that business trauma. I kind of just like patted it away and was like, I'm just going to ignore it. And then when we bought this house, it's funny. Well, the last house we had was also haunted, which is a whole other conversation to have. But my husband and I would have nightmares about that house for so many reasons. But we just cleared it by moving forward, by kind of, facing the triggers and realizing that it no longer serves us, to move forward. But I love the tips that you shared, Michelle. Thank you so much. Let's go to Regena. Regena, I know you shared a little bit already about how you've worked past business trauma. Do you want to dive into a little bit more? Perhaps you have another action plan for femmes that are going through that right now?
Sure. And thank you so much, Violet, for what you just shared, because triggers, I say this with love. I love triggers. And what I mean by that is obviously I don't, raise my hand and say, pick me challenges, right? But they're coming, whether we like it or not. And so as soon as we can identify them as gifts, and I believe we can transform them. So really, again, leaning into that and asking for help. That's my big suggestion is, when the situation happened to me, that's why it happened, because I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I felt ashamed, and I was afraid of talking about it. And so now I'm really confident that it's safe to ask for help. It's safe to, talk with people that maybe know more than me. And we all have areas of our life where we're stronger and maybe not as strong in certain areas. So I think it's a wonderful way to allow someone else to serve us and allow them to share our gifts with us is by simply asking for help. If you feel like you're stuck, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. And I keep bringing this up over the last 10 years of doing FemCity. I don't know where along the way women feel like we cannot ask for help, which is part of why I think it's so important in our programming to always include that ask at the end of our networking, like to verbalize and ask so that it becomes natural to us and it becomes like habitual, hopefully, that we ask for help easily. But I found the same to be true, is that when you ask for help, you're obviously showing vulnerability, but there are other people that have been through it that can guide us. And if not, I think most people will go through this. So if you're not going through it now, maybe in the future you will, or maybe in the past. So it all works together when we ask for help in all areas of our life. And it's okay. It doesn't take away. It doesn't mean like we're weaklings. We all need help. We all need each other for sure in many ways. So Shannon, what's I know, and you also shared a lot of advice as well with your initial share, but is there anything else you want to add or maybe dive a little bit deeper into your advice?
Yes. There's two things. Number one, just remember that if it involves somebody, like so your business trauma overall involves a person, that their opinion of you is none of your business, and more than likely is tied to nothing that has to do with you. And that was something that I learned along the way. The other thing is to forgive. Two people in particular, I live in a small town and I see them often. And I've come a long way in those almost 10 years. And I'm proud of the person I am. The last thing is to surround yourself with leaders who are going to be there and lift you up when you need to be lifted up. After I lost that job when I was pregnant with my daughter, I went to and worked for an amazing company where these two gentlemen just constantly believed in me and had to really help build my confidence back up. And I credit them every day for being where I am today, even though I left that job and went to another about 5 years later. They still are a big part. So be grateful and forgive is some key points I would mention.
I love that. So we have some more love that came through. Irma says, asking for help is becoming humble and open. And then of course, Terry Dean, great topic and great advice. I love also you shared, because I think I want to pull this out. I know it's from your initial share where there was a trust factor that you didn't have with women because that was what you had encountered. And I love that now you're leading one of our FemCity communities. I see that a lot in our communities around the United States and Canada. And I know that that's almost like a more painful trauma sometimes when it comes from someone who's, we feel should be there for us and help mentor. And I love that you shared the forgiveness part and that it's not about us. It's generally their story, because we can sit there and go, well, what did I do wrong? And how come me? And why, and all these questions. But sometimes at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with us. It's their journey. It's their story. It's their narrative. And it's best for us to just accept it, forgive as much as we can, forgive them, but also forgive ourselves for sometimes, either putting ourselves in that situation or harping on it, torturing ourselves, thinking about like what we went wrong, it's good for us to also forgive ourselves. So there's more love that came through. Let me go ahead. I missed one up here. Let me see. All right. So I'm glad people have services that can help, but for the most part, I can't afford much as a single mom. Sometimes just encouraging words and actual solutions anyone can do help. Absolutely. And these are all things that everyone can do, right? We can look for the triggers, meaning at what point we feel that trauma that's happened to us in a business sense. We can ask for help for those. If you don't have anybody, we're all here. You can also work on forgiving yourself and forgiving them and closing that chapter. Those are ways that we can definitely move forward together. And you're not alone. We're not alone. It's happened. I think it's happened to every woman business owner I know in some form, whether it's at the beginning or maybe multiple times. It's happened to all of us. So thank you so much for all that love. All right. So Michelle, final advice, and how can femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
Well, final advice is perhaps just a little expansion on what you just said, which is also, we do want to realize that things aren't about other people, but we have to realize that trauma is about us, and trauma happens, as a big pattern interrupt to say, hey, something is happening here and we need you to look at it. And so for me, I would think especially in the situation that I talked about, it was, okay, where is this pattern everywhere? Because you're seeing it and noticing it in your business, but it's a pattern everywhere. And it was a pattern of trust. It was a pattern of not believing enough in myself. And when I started to find the pattern, then I was able to see, okay, it's not just happening in my business. It's just the business is the biggest thing I see right now. So I need to heal this all around, because if I ever want to collaborate with people, or if I ever want to feel strong enough to work my own business and step into the power of it. And there was all sorts of areas in the rest of my life where I didn't have trust and I wasn't stepping into my power. So use the trauma as kind of Regena said, as a gift to let you know that it's a big warning sign of another pattern that you need to look at, because it's everywhere. And when you find it, then you can address it everywhere. And then the next time it doesn't feel like trauma. It's just like, oh, okay, gotta do the steps because I wasn't doing the steps before. So that would be my, biggest advice there. And where you can find me at michellebutt.com. That's where everything is, or here on Facebook, just Michelle Butt. I'm here.
I love those tips. So for me, when I was younger, I had triggers all the time. I mean, I grew up also in a very volatile atmosphere and environment, and I would get grouchy and I would have no idea why. I would get into a really bad mood, and it was the triggers. And it wasn't until later on when I started doing this whole entire self-help, self-development, personal evolution, that I realized that it's just like an injury. I had the 380 discs from my second pregnancy, and that was a trigger, right? It's a physical trigger. Something hurts. But if it didn't hurt, I wouldn't have known that, and I wouldn't have been able to do the rehab that I did for my back. So I think the triggers are very similar to our physical triggers. Like when we have an injury, our knee feels a little tweaked, or our back's hurting a little bit. It's our way of saying, whoa, wait a moment, there's something happening here. Let me see what happened. When did it start? How is it hurting? What makes it feel better? So I finally connected to all that a couple of years ago, and it made my life so much easier, because then you're able to, like you said, you deal with it, you're able to process it, and it's generally in all areas of your life that it's happening. So thank you so much for that, Michelle. Regena, your final advice, and then how can femmes find you, learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
Yeah. So when I heard you ladies speaking, I saw a visual of a speed bump, and, triggers to me are like speed bumps. I can pummel through them and I can hit the gas and I can go faster and crash into something, or I can slow down, recognize, oh, there's a speed bump here, and move carefully and mindfully. And so I think definitely the takeaway is just, be present with the triggers and see them as an opportunity to transform. And the best way to reach me is at handle at Internal Peace Revolutionist on Instagram, or my website, internalpeacenow.com, and all the other places. Same.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you for that advice. And Shannon, your final advice, and then how can femmes find you to learn more about the work you're doing in this world?
So I want to address one of the comments about negative things said about your business and services, take those to heart, but like bless and release them, because they may not be true. They may be partially true, and they may be fully true, but look at them as learning experiences. And when you own a business, it's one of the things that we develop when we first start. We have to start developing like a tough skin. And that's part of it. Like right now, you may be new in your business, and you might be not the most confident, but as you go on, the confidence will build. And just take those little roadblocks, because they're little, and think about, how can I do this better? How this information is true, false, and just move forward with it. And there's the You're a Badass book. And in there, she said, don't let yourself sit with it more than one day. Just move on from it, because you will let it consume your life, and you'll keep making the same mistakes, and you won't be confident. So that's just my advice there. And you can find me at Shannon Hinderberger on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find me at Shannon Lee Strategy, and all the other places, Shannon Hinderberger.
Love it. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. This was a very soulful conversation about business trauma, and I think you all provided amazing action steps that everyone can take starting today. If, again, you're watching the replay or you're watching us right now, please let us know how these tips helped you. We want to hear about your success. We want to cheer you on. You can follow any of these ladies over on Instagram as well. I follow all of them, so I know they're on Instagram and they're active. And if you have not tried out FemCity yet, we invite you to try out FemCity for free for 30 days. You can head over to FemCity.com and check us out over there. And we will be back tomorrow for our live class. I'm very excited about that. Thank you again, ladies, for joining me today. It was amazing and beautiful. I'm super grateful to have you in my life. And we'll see you next time. Bye.